Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mpumi Ledwaba. Thank you so much to everybody who subscribed, everybody who likes, and everybody who comments. Not forgetting the amazing notification gang. You guys are super awesome. And today's topic is based on a comment, or rather a suggestion that I get quite often. How to start your own business. Now keep in mind guys, I'm no expert. I didn't do an MBA on business or anything. This is just based on my years, not even years, like months of experience in business. As you guys know, I actually registered my business in 2016, but I started fully operating last year June. So basically I'm a year in business. Let's get started. Tips to start up. So I summarized these into 6 and I hope they help you out. First things first, get educated in your line of business. Now, by saying get educated in your line of business, I don't necessarily mean you have to have a 3-year degree or a diploma or an honors in your line of business. Like I said, not everybody has the means to do that, and not everybody can do that. But what I mean is that know what's happening in your business, know how to provide your service if you're providing a service, and know what's happening with your goods. Like if you're providing goods, know what's inside your products, etc. So I went to nail school, not because I necessarily wanted to be a nail technician, but I knew that I wanted to start a nail bar. But also, in order to start that nail bar, I need to know what's happening in the actual nails, because that's the service that I'm providing. So when people come and work for me, I know exactly how the nails should look. I know exactly what products I needed. I know exactly the measurements, etc. So, and I did nails, and should anyone decide to up and leave, I can still sit down on a chair and continue, and business goes on as usual. And with in terms of my receptionist, she had to go for a course for the system that we use, but I went with her. So if she's sick or if she's gone, business is not standing still. I know how to provide the service. So everything that's happening in my business, I'm well aware of. So like I said, you don't have to go get a degree, you don't have to go study or whatever, but just get educated in your line of business. Number 2, save. So some people are lucky enough to be working before they start their business, so that's the time to save. Make sure you put money aside so that you can be able to have a bit of capital. If you can't do that, get a side job, do something, find ways or means. Even if you do what do you call these things that I used to do, promotions, little things. And when I say save, I don't mean you have to save 10,000 a month or 1,000. Even if you save 50 Rand a month, but you have to save. Reason being, starting a business is hard, and one of the hardest things that stops, I think, 99% of people is capital. And people will come, where do I get capital? I can almost assure you that most small businesses will not get a loan from the bank. That's just the truth. It's unfortunate, but it's the honest truth. So it's a good idea to have your own money. What I'm trying to say is, don't shy away from loans. You probably are going to need a loan, but a loan does not necessarily have to come from a bank. A loan could come from a family member, a mentor, or even maybe 4 friends that you gather together. But it's important that you've got something to show. A business plan. A business plan does not necessarily have to be in a certain format or etc., but it needs to motivate your business. It needs to show what you're trying to do, and also needs to show how you're going to make that money back. Here's why I say save. So if you go to example, if you come to me and say, hi Mpumi, I've got this business I want to start, I need you to borrow me 10,000 Rand. First thing I'm going to ask you is, okay, how much have you saved? And if you tell me 0 Rand, I'm not even going to be interested in you, because clearly you've got nothing to lose. And if you've got nothing to lose, I've got everything to lose, which means I'm the only one at risk. If this business fails, it doesn't matter to you, it matters to me. But if you say to me, I've saved 5,000 Rand, or I've even saved 100 Rand because that's all I can do, at least I know that you're invested in the business and you've got something to lose. So people always want to see, what do you have to lose? That's why when the bank wants to, before you buy a car from the bank, they need to see if you've got other credit, even if it's from like a clothing account, because they need to be able to trust you. They need to know that you can bring money back. 3, research. I cannot emphasize research enough. Firstly, you need to research your target market. Who are you going for? Who are you selling to? Because there's no point if you're selling something but no one's buying it. If you're selling, example, if you go to London and you're selling ice cream, in winter, what do you think is going to happen? Is ice cream a good idea? Is ice cream a good example? People eat ice cream in winter, but you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. But know your target market. Or if you're in a student area, would it make sense to open a knitting school? No, because students aren't interested in that. But if you go to an old age home and open a knitting school, you have a greater chance of succeeding, because that's generally what older people do. I'm not saying stereotype, but I'm saying identify who your target market is and what are they interested in. Then you need to check your market conditions. In the area that you're in, what are the people like? What's the culture? Are the people medium class, low class, high class? Because, I mean, if I go to the heart of Sandton and open a spaza shop, what are the chances of getting clients? That's not what they're interested in. But if I go and open a boutique in Sandton, that's what most people are drawn to in Sandton, because those are the kind of people that are there. So I'll make an example with me. I'm in Auckland Park in Melville. So I knew that my target market are students and new working class. Not shutting out anybody else, but that's who my focus is going to be. So firstly, I check their standard of living. What do they afford? What kind of things do they like? And how do I factor my business into what they're interested in? Not saying change and compromise what you're trying to serve, but how do you factor it in into the type of people you're targeting? Would it make sense to charge 500 Rand for a pair of nails for students? No. So how do I factor my prices? How do I factor my services? How do I factor the type of nails? So that's what I'm trying to say. Research, check who your target market is, check your market conditions. Cool. Demand versus supply, that is number 4. There's no point, and this also goes back to research and market condition. There's no point in supplying something and there's no demand for it. It has to be the worst thing. You could supply the best lemonade in the country, but if nobody wants lemonade in your country, then you're in for a loss. You know, nothing's gonna work out. So find out for your product. Is there a demand for your product? Or if there isn't a demand, can you create a demand for your product? Cell phones. When phones started out, it was just a basic communication thing. And now there was a bigger demand for cameras. So almost every household had a camera. Almost every household had an alarm clock. Almost every household had all these things. And then cell phones grew or evolved rather, and then now your cell phone has an alarm clock, your cell phone has has music, your cell phone has a camera. So now you no longer need an alarm clock. Who still has an alarm clock? Is there demand for alarm clock? No. Are there people who use it? Yeah, but do you think it's the best business to go into? Well, that's up to you. Another thing, cameras. Not every household has a camera anymore. People who probably specialize in photography or who love to travel or who are really interested in that would have a camera. But most people have it on their phones. So what I'm trying to say is check if there's a demand for what you need. If you can supply, is there demand for what you supply. Fifth thing, build a client base and relationships. Sure, I can't emphasize the importance of relationships. Before we rush to open shop or open offices or big buildings, this goes with demand versus supply. You need to know that there's a demand for what you're supplying. You need to know that there's at least a bit of a client base. Because what's the point of opening a shop where you have rent to pay and you have no client? You don't even have anyone on your database. You've never served anybody. So start with what you have, build a client base and build relationships. So with every client who comes in, treat them as though they're the first and the last client. Wherever you are servicing your product, wherever you're doing what you're supposed to do, even if you start in the back of your house, do it with perfection. Do it as though you're looking into the future, that one day I'm going to need this client to come into my big building and come and pay my rent. So build a client base and good relationships. Last thing, start with what you have and grow gradually. This is something you guys probably hear me say all the time, and I always stand by this. Start with what you have. Goes back to my story. I started in my car and I drove around to people's houses. But here's another funny story. When I opened my nail bar, I bought the cheapest chairs you could find. And one by one, they began to break because they're cheap. Like every 2 months or so, one chair would break. But it was okay because that was my starting point. That's what I could afford. I was not going to go take a huge loan so that I could get a chair that's worth 2,000 Rand. I could afford a chair that cost 150 Rand. And for the time being, people could still sit. And people sat on those chairs. When my business started making money, I took that money and bought better quality chairs. So that's how it works. We don't have to rush ourselves. You don't have to get the best of everything. If you have to start with a torn couch and you can just patch it up and put cushion, try fix it up, start with that. If you can't, if you have to go to a secondhand shop or whatever, use that. And as time goes, you'll get the money, use the money that the business brings in to do better and do well and get better quality stuff. Now, I'm not saying let's serve poor quality, and I'm not saying have terrible stuff, but I'm just saying if the cheapest is what you can afford, then use the cheapest until you can afford what you actually want. So yeah, those are my tips for startups. I hope they helped. This is what has helped me. I basically summarized what keeps me going and what has helped me. So yeah, if there's any more questions, guys, don't forget you can leave a comment, and please subscribe. Did I say leave a comment? Yeah, leave a comment, subscribe, like, and any suggestions, I'm open to them. And thank you so much for the incredible support, guys. Love you lots.